Thank you very much. It's good to be here, and it's good to see some familiar faces and a lot of new faces. So thank you for coming. And I think I probably should stand up here because they tell me the light's better here. Can you see me okay? Yeah. Okay. The subject today is what I call the awakening. And the whole premise of this talk is to give you the sense that humanity is at a remarkable point of transition, and that a great awakening is in process. And I'm going to be presenting this idea, but from an esoteric point of view. There may be times when I use a term or two that is new to you, but when I do that, I'll define my terms along the way. But you know, it's hard to sometimes fathom that we're in a time of difficulty, a time of optimism, and that's what I'm proposing. This is a time of optimism because it seems such a time of difficulty and stress and crisis. It's hard to see that this may be actually a window of opportunity, but indeed it is. You know, we're in a time when we look at the financial world and it seems to be falling apart. We're looking at the political system and it's a mess. We're looking at horrible genocide in different parts of the world, massive starvation in parts of the world, and it's hard to fathom that humanity is at an awakening point. But I want to give you this understanding. The most important principle to start this talk is this: that crisis is a prelude to all expansions of consciousness. Crisis is a prelude to all expansions of consciousness, and that applies both to the individual, you and I, as well as humanity as a whole. Now, one of the things that I want you to understand about how to look at this world situation is to realize that from the esoteric point of view, humanity is viewed as a single entity, as one living being. And that you and I are cells of consciousness within its beingness. And that entity is the thing that's evolving. That entity is a living, vibrant entity. And its structure, its nature of consciousness is exactly the same as the structure and nature of consciousness of a human being. The key idea here is to realize that humanity is one, and that underlying it all is the so-called soul of humanity. That not only is humanity one, but that it has a commonality of a higher consciousness. The soul of humanity represents the fusion of every individual soul into a profound singularity. And actually, the soul of humanity is actually greater than the sum total of every human soul combined. It's a synergistic soul. It's a synergy. And the soul of humanity is the subject of the day from a certain perspective. Because when I say to you, humanity is on the verge of an awakening, I'm really saying that humanity is on the verge of awakening to its own soul nature, its own soul nature. But humanity also has a personality, just like you and I do. A higher and a lower nature. And the lower nature is the world we see and the way we are, the way we've been historically. But the higher nature of humanity is the part of us that we recognize a higher set of principles. We recognize a higher quality of life. We recognize that underlying all of the diversity of human expression, that there is a fundamental commonality. And that oneness is so important to keep in mind, that oneness is realized on a couple levels. At first glance, when we say, oh, humanity is one, well, yes, humanity is one, but we typically think about that in terms of we have a commonality of the human experience. And that's true. That's true. But deeper than that, there's a place inside, deep inside each of us, where we touch a larger soul, and that larger soul is the soul of humanity. And that's what we're waking up to today. Now, what's happening is this. As I said, crisis is a prelude to all expansions of consciousness. And we see crisis now on a global level.